I'm going to speak about foreign languages, a psycholinguistic perspective, 60 years in foreign language teaching. We are at the present moment in the third wave of the pandemic, and we are still in it for some time. Even if we are at the present moment at the end of the third wave in some countries. And yet, 3 million new daily cases worldwide, 50,000 new daily deaths worldwide, and Europe by October 19th, 2021 is far from being out of the movement. A total of 61,860,000 reported infections. A total of 1,474,000 reported deaths. Both figures in sharp increase by October 19. And the situation is not even and equal for all countries. As for new cases, the 5 top countries in Europe are the United Kingdom, Russia, Romania, Ukraine, and Germany. As for deaths, the 5 top countries in Europe are Russia, Romania, Ukraine, the United Kingdom, and Bulgaria. As compared to the world, Europe is high as for new cases and rising. Europe is average as for deaths, but rising. We are not out, far, far from it. France, for one example, is in a process of legally validating in Parliament the use of the sanitary pass up to July 2022. And that would dramatically include the presidential election and the general elections and both campaigns in April and May 2022. The main mistake would be to consider we can go back to normal the way it was before the pandemic. 5 elements have to be taken into account. The first element is that vaccination has to become quasi-mandatory. The second element is that barrier gestures have to remain active in some situations. The third element is that testing has to be systematic. The fourth element is that the post-pandemic period should be the opportunity to develop a completely new way of learning and teaching. And the fifth element is that this situation implies that all teachers have to be retrained to cope with this situation in their classes. This leads to the consideration of the methods and the objectives in this new period as for teaching. 6 ideas should be kept in mind. The first idea is that self-learning has to be privileged. The second idea is that guidance has to be available at all times. The third idea is that students must work in small groups of 2 or 3. The fourth idea is that the main objective is autonomy for individuals, for the small groups, and for the classes themselves. Half classes every week and full classes once a month. This objective implies constant confrontation of the work of the various small groups in the class. And the class has to be divided into 2 halves of 12 students each. 1 half in class presenter, 1 half of the class in distant learning, in groups of 2 or 3. The half classes should alternate regularly, weekly cycle. The full class, once a month, should come together, all subjects concerned, on one day. Those methods and objectives imply we're going to use tools that were not necessarily traditional. Some will be new, and anyway, if they're old tools, they will have to be used differently. I will consider 7 tools here to be used in foreign language teaching. The first tool is the telephone. Within the school, with a special room using inner connections for communication, discussion, and pedagogical work between one student and one teacher, or between one student and another student. The second tool is the telephone, again, but this time outer communication, but keeping it local by using normal landlines, or regional by using internet lines. The third tool is the use of oral or written chatbots in the foreign languages concerned within the national boundaries, or with a foreign country or the world in the foreign language concerned. The fourth tool is video conferencing. Tools that exist already and have been vastly tested over the last period. Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and Google Meet are 3 of the best known tools in that field. The fifth tool is dedicated chatting sessions with WeChat, for instance, and some other chatting sites. Each class should have a dedicated page on some such sites. These pages should be protected and only open to the members of the class and their guests. The sixth tool I will consider for foreign languages is the twinning of one national class and one foreign class, and that would be a good thing for direct exchanges in the concerned languages, both the national language and the foreign language, to be studied on what kind of pattern. Both in written communication and in oral communication. The seventh tool is a use of all artificial intelligence means available directly, active on these chatbots for both individual use and discursive use. But those are more or less the traditional tools. I would like to consider now the acme of this new age of learning and teaching, that is to say, virtual reality. And in that field, 6 perspectives can be considered. The first perspective is that it should enable total immersion in the foreign language and in an environment that should be real, open, communicational, etc. The second perspective is that the student or students, 2 or 3 together, should be immersed in a real foreign environment, possible with Google satellite maps, for example. The third perspective is that the student or students, 2 or 3 together, should have persona that could actually be in a virtual reality environment, could hear and listen to what is being said around, could intervene in the discursive exchanges around. This last remark is a maximum extension. The fourth perspective is that the student or students, 2 or 3 together, should be able to take part in virtual visits to museums and other institutions. I'm thinking of theaters, operas, and others still, and they should be able to communicate with people. This last remark is a maximum extension. The fifth perspective is that before this maximum extension be possible, in these visits, the student or students, 2 or 3 together, should be taken care of by an artificial intelligence character in an avatar that could be the guide or the one who can answer any question. In the foreign language, of course. The sixth perspective is in fact the fact that the student or students, 2 or 3 together, could, at first and for the time being, meet with such artificial intelligence avatars in all the institutions or places they visit. That leads to conclusions that are in fact 4 wake-up calls and an opening to the next phase. The first wake-up call is that Europe can be and should be a central competitor and partner in the world in this deeper learning project. The second wake-up call is that Europe should, in the world, take the lead in bringing together the various private, public, and state actors on such a project, mobilizing artificial intelligence, 5G and 6G, and virtual reality within education. The third wake-up call is that Europe has to take the control of her linguistic multifariousness. 24 official languages and 200 spoken languages. The fourth wake-up call is that virtual reality can be an essential tool in the game because it provides total immersion without mass traveling. The opening to the next session is that beyond these four cores, we have to consider how the learner can be made the active and controlling agent of the self-learning process with the guidance from the teacher. This will reveal the major mistake made by the European Union as for foreign language teaching, a mistake amplified in France to dramatic proportions. This will be my oral participation in this fourth session of the conference. Have a good day.